Florida Congressman Greg Steube is filing articles of impeachment against President Biden, claiming he abused his influence by protecting his son, Hunter, from the law. He says the president has undermined the integrity of his office, brought disrepute on the presidency, betrayed his trust as president, and acted in a manner subversive of the rule of law and justice at the expense of America's citizens. Florida Congressman Cory Mills serves on the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on Oversight and Accountability, and he joins us now. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. What do you think of this filing of the articles of impeachment? What do you think can be accomplished by filing for impeachment?
Well, I think that there's many articles of impeachment that's been filed, and rightfully so, whether it was looking at kind of what Congressman Steube has done with pointing out the conflicts of interest, obstruction of justice, abuse of powers, or whether it's Congresswoman Boebert for the open borders, the fentanyl overdoses, and the continual increase in human sex and child trafficking, or whether it was actually the 13 Gold Star families who need accountability for, Joe Biden putting political optics above military strategy. So I think that, we need to start looking at the fact that Republicans are going to truly say that we're the majority, that we have to start stepping up and acting like the majority. And the American people see, whether it was the FD 1023 document that shows a spider web of business streams for $20 million plus been wired, whether it's looking at the quid pro Joe, where he got rid of the attorney general and that was investigating Burisma so that he could get $1 billion into Ukraine's vice president, or whether it was him lying about the fact that he had no understanding of his son's business dealings, only to find out that now he's taken 20 calls and a couple of dinners that's helped to close the deals.
Yeah, as we just discussed a little bit earlier in the show, Congressman, the smoke is right there. The circumstantial evidence is all around. And in your estimation, while the Senate is still controlled by the Democrats, do these articles of impeachment, as you said, there's many, do they help in the House Oversight Committee or in the process of revealing the truth?
Well, I think that it helps to not only reveal the truth, but as we learned from Devin Archer's testimony, it also is contrary to what Joe Biden tried to tell the American people. He tried to point the finger at President Donald J. Trump that his family was the one taking money from China, when in fact, he and his family, whether it was Hunter Biden, Jim, Haley, you name the Biden crime family, they were actually ones responsible for taking the funding from China, from Russia, from Kazakhstan, from the mayor of Moscow's wife, $3.5 million, or from China itself. And so I think that it helps to get transparency. And again, the American people want three things when it comes to elected officials, and that's transparency, accountability, and accessibility. And these are all the things that they should have when you have representation in D.C.
Well, Congressman, I believe you've been in Iowa. You might still be in Iowa right now at the State Fair this entire weekend, campaigning with former President Trump. Tell me, we were just discussing this. So many Florida congressmen, Byron Donalds, yourself, others, have endorsed President Trump over the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. What is it that has rallied so many Florida congressmen around President Trump?
Well, for many of us, we believe in his America First agenda. He's one of the only candidates right now who's actually put forth a true agenda and what he would do in the Agenda 47 plan. But also look at his foreign policy. Whether it was his Remain in Mexico agreement, whether it was the Abraham Accords that helped to establish relationships with Israel, whether it was the moving of our embassy to Jerusalem to recognize it as actual city and sovereignty, looking at the China Phase 1 deal. And this is what appeals to the Iowans, is the fact that he brought billions of dollars back into the agricultural sector. He really did prioritize an America First agenda, not getting us back into the other, world endless wars or looking at interventionism, but looking at things like tax reform, looking at how do you strengthen the American economy, looking at where we were in our independent sovereignty, looking at where we were in negotiating ourselves out, but also holding our allies accountable, as you saw when it came to NATO and them paying their 2% of GDP. So when you look at all of these things, you look at the direction of the country, the key thing that he holds that no one else does is that he won't have a re-election looming over his head, so he can do the things that may be unpopular in many cases to making decisions, to do that bold course correction, to get America back on track, to restore our values.
Well, Congressman, I don't know if it was the last time we spoke, but I'll always have it burned in my memory that when we spoke from your undisclosed location somewhere close to Afghanistan, as you participated in Pineapple Express and other efforts to get people out after we so hurriedly and chaotically left Afghanistan, you served as an inspiration. And as I think a lot in the last couple of days about how we can help people, half a world away on the island in America of Maui, I just want you to know that guys like you that rally around and that cause in the immediate moment with logistics are an inspiration. You, Scott Mann, others, you're a true inspiration. Thank you so much, Congressman.